Hello and a very warm welcome. This is the news on NTA International, reaching you live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. My name is Justin Bemwi and Shegun Ajay is the sign language interpreter. First, let's look at the major stories. United Nations canvasses elimination of nuclear weapons in all parts of the globe. President Bola Tinubu approves payment for 12 attack helicopters for the Nigerian Army Aviation to strengthen internal security. Plus, on disaster management, NEMA extends support to affected persons and vulnerable Nigerians in Jigawa State. Well, thank you so much for joining us. The Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed has described having only 1 out of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council in attendance at the General Assembly's debate as disappointing. Amina Mohammed, while addressing the World Press Conference, said their presence would have made tangible contributions on many of the SDGs. Abdullahi reports.
The Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed noted that 88 heads of state and government were in attendance. She said there were commitments made and that there were also conversations that will help carry some of the agenda forward.
Who've had the most to do with where we are situated on the climate agenda weren't able to come through the door. And I think that gave us integrity, is that those that have the least to do with it put their best foot forward. They continue to do so in spite of the challenges.
The Deputy Scribe also lamented that debt is becoming more and more of a burden to many countries, that they cannot even cope with paying the service bill.
I am enthused that we have over 120 plans that have engaged with us to find ways out of this. We're short of the resources, but that's why we're pushing for the SDG stimulus. That is a low-hanging fruit. That is something we can do with existing resources and institutions. And I hope by the end of this year we'll have something to say about that.
On the final day of Under 78, President of the General Assembly, Dennis Francis, noted that there were only 20 women leaders who spoke during the general debates, a decline from the 23 last year.
I spoke to many leaders of the need to recognize that women's voices, aspirations, and rights matter at every level, from the grassroots to the global stage. And it begins with investing in education, particularly for girls.
Dennis Francis also spoke on the focus of the Assembly.
Calls measured in lives lost, homes destroyed, rights violated, inequalities persisted, and accesses denied. All these challenges demand that we reach further, that we engage fully in preparations for the summit of the future, and define the future of international cooperation amid multidimensional risks.
136 heads of states and governments, as well as 40 ministers, spoke at this year's general debates. Adebola Brookslyn, NTA News.
Now, any use of nuclear weapons, anytime, anywhere, and in any context would unleash a humanitarian catastrophe of epic proportions. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said this at an annual event to mark the International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons. And let's join Adebola Brookslyn again for details.
Addressing the forum, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the only way to prevent the use of nuclear weapons is to eliminate them.
First, nuclear weapon states must lead the way. I call on them to meet their disarmament obligations and commit to never use nuclear weapons under any circumstances. Second, We need to reinforce and recommit to the nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime built over the decades.
Antonio Guterres, in the name of all victims of nuclear testing, called on all countries yet to ratify the treaty to do so without delay, and for those states that possess nuclear weapons to ensure a moratorium on all nuclear testing.
And this includes the treaties on non-proliferation of nuclear weapons and the prohibition of nuclear weapons. It also includes the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Though not yet in force, the treaty remains a powerful testament of humanity's will to lift the shadow of nuclear annihilation from our world once and for all.
The International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons has been observed annually since 2014. Adebola, Brooksland, NTA News.
Now, the new headquarters of the African Center for Disease Control and Prevention is now standing in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, as proof of the Rus-China-Africa medical cooperation. Officially inaugurated in January this year, the landmark project is expected to greatly fortify public health systems and response capacity on the continent. Adebola Brooksland again has details.
The building covers a gross floor area of more than 23,000 square meters, including administrative offices, an emergency response center, an information center, and advanced biological laboratories. It also contains the first pair of a level 3 biosafety laboratories in Africa. The levels of biocontainment precautions at an enclosed laboratory facility is to isolate dangerous biological agents ranging from the lowest biosafety level 1 or P1 to the highest at level 4 or P4. The project was first announced in 2018 during the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in Beijing. The groundbreaking ceremony was in late 2020. Construction of the building coincided with the COVID-19 pandemic, which posed great challenges to the work. However, after 25 months, the first phase of construction was successfully completed and has been handed over to the African side. Africa CDC staff have already settled into their new offices, and the headquarters is now expecting scientists and experts from all over the world to join forces in advancing the continent's public health. Adebola, Brooksland, NTA News.
Now, President William Ruto says the 70,000 units of affordable housing project is on course and at advanced stages of construction across the country. President Ruto said besides addressing the housing gap faced by the growing urban low-income population, the project also presents huge opportunities for gainful employment to millions of the youths struggling to earn a living and entrepreneurs. He also reiterated his commitment to the Kenya-Gwanza mega project, which would provide employment for millions of Kenyan youth. The president was speaking in Mukuru, Nairobi, while assessing the progress of the 14,000-unit Mukuru Met social housing project. This is coming even as the present regime targets to build at least 250,000 houses every year for the next 5 years, a project that could see over 6 million Kenyans living in informal settlements get decent and affordable houses. And community empowerment, investment in renewable energy and digitization are some of the key areas that will target towards growth and development of the tourism sector of Nigeria. The Minister of Tourism, Lola Adejon, in a message said this while commemorating World Tourism Day celebration with the theme Tourism and Green Investment. Ekemini Williams has the details.
The Federal Ministry of Tourism marked the 2023 World Tourism Day celebration with a variety of activities, including a road walk, cultural performances, and keynote addresses. The Minister of Tourism, Lola Adejon, who was represented by the Director General, National Institute for Hospitality and Tourism, Alhaji Nura Kaigiwa, emphasized that tourism products require adequate publicity, development, maintenance and promotion, and pointed out 4 key areas that will be targeted for the growth and development of the country's tourism sector, including digitization, investment in renewable energy, and community empowerment.
There are a few key points to note for the growth and development of tourism in Nigeria on this day. 1. Community empowerment. Sustainable tourism empowers local communities through education, skills development, job creation, and supporting small businesses. Digitization of tourism sector will improve data collection and analysis, enhance accessibility, generate a competitive advantage, augment sustainable initiatives, and improve cost efficiency. This will, in turn, improve the customer experience.
The Conservator General, National Park Services, Ibrahim Musa Goni, who was at the event, described the celebration as worthy.
It has been an eventful celebration because this is the first time the ministry, as a new ministry, is celebrating the World Tourism Day. So it is actually something worth celebrating.
The event was graced by distinguished guests and stakeholders, including representatives from the United Nations World Tourism Organization, Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, figures from travel agencies, tour operators, and senior officials from the Ministry of Tourism. In Abuja, Ekemini Williams, NTA News.
Now turning to security, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved payment for 12 attack helicopters for the Nigerian Army Aviation. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja, announced this at the maiden Nigerian Army Aviation Seminar in Abuja.
Dynamism in the nation's threat environment led to the commencement of the process of re-establishing the Nigerian Army Aviation. The Army Aviation is usually equipped with helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft to improve ground troops' agility and responsiveness while contributing to the success of a joint operation. So far, Army pilots, aircraft engineers, and other ground crew have been trained.
I'm again happy to announce that Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has approved payment for the initial 12 MD 530 Foxtrot KU's attack helicopters that will see to the operationalization of the Nigerian Army Aviation. I sincerely appreciate Mr. President for buying into this aspiration of the Nigerian Army and committing himself to making history by bringing it to pass.
As we draw inspiration from experiences of other nations that have excelled in the Army Aviation, we must adapt to their best practices to suit our own unique operational environment.
This maiden Nigerian Army Aviation Seminar is to deliberate on potential challenge and measures to ensure the success of the aviation. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Now, some beaches, water bodies and waterfalls in Nigeria have been found to be convenient spots for substance abuse and open defecation. Charles Alpha reports that they have been marked as intervention areas by the Operation Clean Our Environment campaign of the Center for Culture and Environment Promotion in collaboration with the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NESREA.
Beach cleanups, beating plastic pollution and open defecation. To restore the ecosystem are challenges the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency and partners are prepared to take on headlong. They have identified the Tiga Dam in Kano, Patigi Beach in Kwara State, Aso and Kura Falls in Plateau, among some of the water bodies and beaches in Nigeria, earmarked for cleanup by the Operation Clean Up Our Beaches campaign by the Center for Culture and Environment Promotion. Some of these locations are regarded as harbors for plastic, which is posing great threats to underwater life and that of human.
We believe that ensuring that our beaches are clean and also free from open defecation and drug will also help to attract more tourists, and of course it will ensure that it will create jobs.
As part of efforts to clean these areas and attract tourists, Nasria will be providing support on environmental cleanliness for the center.
We need to clean them. If you travel and go to other countries, they generate a lot of revenue from tourism because they develop their beaches.
The project is designed to have positive impact on the sustainable development goals on poverty reduction, water and sanitation, decent work, economic growth and climate change, as well as the SDG goal on partnerships. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
You're watching the news at NTA International. We'll take a short break now. The news continues in a moment. Just stay with us. Now, the governorship election petitions tribunal sitting in Abuja has dismissed the petitions challenging the declaration of Francis Nwifuru of the All Progressives Congress as the governor of Ebonyi State. Affirming his election, the tribunal held that the petitions were lacking in merit. Judiciary correspondent Austin Ayebe reports.
Arriving at a decision to dismiss the petition filed by the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, the three-man tribunal panel formulated 4 issues for determination arising from the grounds of the petition. The first was whether he was validly nominated and sponsored by a political party, whether he was qualified to contest the March 18, 2023 governorship election, having been alleged not to have resigned his membership from the People's Democratic Party, whether he was duly elected coming from allegations of non-substantial compliance by INEC to the Electoral Act, and whether he scored the lawful majority votes to have been declared winner of the election. Having gone through the arguments of the petitioners and respondents on the issues formulated, the tribunal resolved all in favor of the respondents. It held that there is evidence before the tribunal that the governor Francis Nwifuru resigned from the People's Democratic Party and was validly sponsored by the All Progressive Congress. It maintained that the issue of qualification of a candidate to contest for the office of a governor is constitutional, as decided by the Federal High Court. On the issue of non-compliance by INEC and other allegations of electoral fraud, such as alteration of votes, overvoting, cancellation of votes, mutilation of results in favor of the governor, the tribunal held that the petitioner failed to prove the allegations going by the testimonies of the 20 witnesses that appeared before the tribunal. They therefore held that Francis Nwifuru of the APC was qualified, properly sponsored, and scored valid majority votes to have been declared by INEC as winner of the election and thereby upheld it.
The petitioners failed to prove that the governor of Ebonyi State is not a member of the APC.
The court said that issue of qualification to contest election is both pre-election and post-election. We want to test that issue on appeal.
From the National Judicial Institute, Abuja, venue of the tribunal sitting, Austin Ayebe, NTA News.
Now, in view of the present challenges occasioned by flooding, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is extending support to the affected persons and vulnerable Nigerians in Jigawa State. The intervention program is under the federal government's 2023 Special National Economic and Livelihood Intervention. Ilyasu Yakubu reports.
This special national economic and livelihood intervention is primarily designed by the federal government to support victims of the 2022 flood and vulnerable Nigerians to start life again. The items being distributed were categorized into 4 different groups, from livelihood support equipment to food and non-food items, as well as farm input to farmers affected by the disaster. Jigawa State Governor Umar Mamadi, represented by his deputy Aminu Usman, commended the federal government for the support and promised to ensure equitable distribution to the affected persons.
It is interesting to understand that the The wisdom behind this type of intervention is to demonstrate government's concern over the welfare and betterment of living standard of its citizens.
Director General of NEMA, who was also represented by the Director Human Resource Management of the agency, Musa Zakari, says NEMA will continue to execute its mandate and will not leave out any parts of the country.
The intervention is expected to stimulate value chain activities at the grassroots. At the same time, the livelihood support items are meant to help artisans to improve their business and grow the economy.
Items delivered include sewing and grinding machines, food stuff like rice, beans and sorghum, among other non-food items, as well as farm input. Ilyas Yakubu, NTA News.
Now, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, Senator Abdullahi Gumel, says the choice of Cardoso and the 4 others as new management team of the CBN as appointed by President Tinubu was to rescue the economy. In a statement, Senator Gumel commended the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and other lawmakers for screening and confirming the appointments on the first day after the resumption from recess. He expressed the hope that other appointees of the President done while the National Assembly was on recess would be screened and confirmed soon by the Senate. Senator Gumel wished Muslims a peaceful celebration of Maulud and urged Nigerians to be tolerant and be positive on the renewed hope agenda. Now, Eid al-Maulud is a day set aside to honor the birth of the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, peace be upon him. As Muslims across the world commemorate the day, Tokbay Alabi in this report takes a look at its significance to the Muslim Ummah.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was born on a Monday, the 12th day of Rabiul Awwal, a day that represents the symbol of faith in Islam. Not all Muslims celebrate Eid al-Maulud, while some honor the Holy Prophet Muhammad by commemorating his birthday with open-air services. Some are opposed to the idea of celebration as they believe the Prophet did not celebrate his birthday during his lifetime.
All good things which we are practicing, he brought it to us.
According to Islamic history and traditions, what the Prophet did was to fast on Mondays to mark his birthday and on Thursdays as the day he was called to prophethood.
Indeed, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to be passionate on anybody who wants to ridicule a black man among them. Because there are black men among his companions, especially Bilal. In fact, he encouraged Sayyidina Abu Bakr to emancipate Bilal from slavery. Compare it with our present situation. A little thing now, you are Hausa, you are Igbo, you are Yoruba, you are Urobo. This is quite contrary to the teachings of Islam and the teachings of our noble Prophet Muhammad.
He was caring for the women. He taught everyone to relate with one another the way we should, with compassion, with love, with care, with justice. But unfortunately these days, that is not what we see.
This is the best time for us to demonstrate the qualities and teachings of the Prophet ﷺ so that our nation will be greater and greater and our problems will be solved and they will have divine intervention from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
While the day is not like the other celebrations in Islam, clerics encouraged Muslim faithful to spread the virtues of the Holy Prophet Muhammad on the day, especially the message of love, peace, togetherness, forgiveness, perseverance, and nation building. Tokbay Alabi, NTA News.
Now let's have a quick check on Thursday's weather prospect. A weather report that ends the news on NTA International. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Justin Bemuyan Chegunajai has been the sign language interpreter. We say bye for now.